Life is Not Always Fair by Megan Fresh. My name is Megan and I'm the second of 5 kids. My parents had 4 girls and 1 boy: Jordan, Megan, Mackenzie, Sydney, and then Seth. My dad, Todd, is the fourth of 5 kids. My grandparents had 4 boys and 1 girl: Brett, Bart, and then twins Travis and Todd, and then Mindy. Living in LaPorte City, Iowa, farming was the family business. My uncle Brett was my dad's biggest supporter when it came to wrestling. He was at every single meet that I had my senior year. He always wore the same overalls, telling me they were good luck. He would drive down from UNI every night that I had a match. Brett loved to be involved. Family was so important to him. It's the state wrestling tournament in 1987. The first match Todd was in, he almost lost. At one point in the match, he was in the cradle. All of a sudden, there was only one voice he could hear throughout the entire auditorium, and it was Brett's. My dad looked over and saw his oldest brother, Brett, in his overalls, yelling at my dad to move. My dad ended up winning state champ that year. At the age of 21, my dad's life changed dramatically. What would you do if one of your biggest supporters was taken away from you? How would you cope? Brett is driving to work. He is sitting at an intersection turning left, waiting for oncoming traffic. At this point, he has crept out into the middle of the intersection a ways. There's a minivan coming towards him in the farthest lane that was approaching the intersection with the gravel truck behind it. The light turns yellow. Brett sees the minivan slowing down, so he decides to finish his left turn. The gravel truck was not slowing down. It moved to the inside lane and went through the light, hitting my uncle. Brett was thrown from the vehicle upon impact. Reports say that he was dead on impact from a severe head trauma to the back of his head. Bart was the first notified in the family. Working at a business only blocks from the crash site, he was able to follow the ambulance from the scene to the hospital. Bart called my grandparents and met them at the hospital. Todd and Travis were both at Iowa State, and it was midterms. Todd was in a lecture. The professor was Dr. Richard Mansbach, head of the political science department at the time. Todd was sitting towards the back of the room, with the lecture hall door open. Mansbach was speaking. He looked up at a guy who walked in and was looking around. That man was Reverend Peckham, who had been moved to a Methodist church in Ames, but was originally from LaPorte City and knew my family really well. He said he was looking for Todd Fresh, so my dad got up and followed him to the hallway. Reverend said Brett was in a car accident on his way to work this morning and didn't make it. Todd didn't know how to react. When was the last time he talked to Brett or seen him? Minutes later, Peckham asked if he knew where Travis was. After going through a mutual friend, he was able to figure out what classroom and building Travis was in. Still in shock, the two went and pulled Travis out of class and told him the news. They went to their dorms and started packing. Todd called his then-girlfriend Tracy and told her what happened. She went to his dorm, and within 3 hours of getting the news, they were headed home. That was the first time Todd saw his dad cry. He didn't know his tough farmer dad was capable of crying. It was a long and very exhausting week. Todd changed his major from ag business, effectively ag policy and international trade, and reevaluated himself. He switched to political science after many discussions with Dr. Mansbach, who had a definite impact on my father's life. Tracy stood by his side through all of it. Todd changed his focus in his major to focus more on family after Brett's death. He wanted to be around his family more. Bart handled everything. My dad's not sure how he grieved. He said he kind of went along with robotic motions. Travis dropped out of Iowa State at the end of the semester after Brett died. He moved back home and the next year started classes at UNI. Todd could tell when his parents hit every single stage of the 5 stages of grief. His mother turned strongly to her faith while grieving. His father buried everything. He was not one to tell you that he loved you, even though you knew it, and he was not one to give you hugs. But after Brett's death, he told his kids that he loved them and gave them a hug before they even left the house. When the entire family is together, you get a feeling of something being wrong, someone missing. The impact of Brett's death hit each and every one of us to a certain degree, some more than others. You forget about the bad negative traits of a person when something like death happens. Brett loved to be involved. Family was so important to him. He loved to scuba dive, and he also loved astronomy. It was important to Brett to be a role model and support Todd and Travis in all that they did. He drove all the way down from UNI on a Sunday morning to help us move into our dorms at Iowa State. He drove back the same night because he had to work the next morning, but wanted to be with us and help us move in. My dad has always told me that life is not always fair. I never understood why he told my siblings and I this so often until I knew what happened to my uncle. My dad always tells us to handle life on its terms and move forward, no matter what we are doing.